familiar structure of home, you're leaving the support structures at home, you're leaving your friendship network that you've developed, you're leaving the routines and patterns that you've had, and you're suddenly making lots of decisions all the time and trying to build up new relationships and new routines and new patterns. And you have a different kind of academic stress. So college can be a really hard time for people.
Mental health is something that I think a lot of college students struggle with because it's the first time we're supposed to be independent. We're kind of just shoved out into the world and have to take care of a lot of things on our own.
You're not around your usual group of people and your family, so it's very easy to feel alone and not want to seek out help because you don't want to seem weak.
There are a lot of students under enormous pressure at MIT.
A lot of times people think, oh, it's like, if you're not stressed at MIT, you're doing it wrong.
Particular problems of MIT, like a lot of people who show up there have always been the smartest kid in their high school and never had to work that hard. And then they get to MIT and all of a sudden they're not the smartest person around and they have to work really hard, and that's a huge adjustment.
I think sometimes people can get overwhelmed because they compare themselves to others. Like if somebody else is taking 5 or 6 classes but they're doing perfectly fine, then somebody might try to take 5 or 6 classes even though they can't handle it. And so I think in those situations people run into issues when they sort of don't know their own limits and compare themselves to others.
I feel like here that the average person suffers through something emotionally problematic at some point in time, whether it's as severe as a long-term depression or just a lot of serious stress and some sort of breakdown.
One of my friends had depression and died by suicide, and I didn't know how to deal with it at the time. I didn't know how to help her, and I didn't know how to help in the aftermath.
After I had a tough semester, I took a semester off. I probably wouldn't feel this way if I hadn't personally gone through like a time where I felt depressed, and I had never felt that before, and now that I have, and I know like the warning signs and I can see it in other people, I'm very like eager to help people avoid feeling that way. And
I think people's mindset about mental health and treatment definitely prevents some people from seeking help that really need it. I think the biggest misconception about depression is that being depressed represents some kind of moral failure or some kind of character flaw, and that seeking help is a weakness. Taking a medication when you have an infection is not weakness, right? It's the smart thing to do. So getting treatment when you have a depression is not weakness, it's the thing that you do.
The Active Minds chapter at MIT was created about 7 years ago.
I think it's really important so that students are more likely to seek help when they need it and not be as scared to do so.
Most colleges have college counseling centers too, where there are therapists available. I think the things that colleges could do better, a lot of times universities and colleges will have a college counseling center waiting there, and they're waiting for the kids to show up.
We have mental health services here at MIT, although there are a lot of issues with that, and most students, I would say, are very afraid and reluctant to go in there. If things seem particularly problematic for that student and that there is a high likelihood of them hurting themselves fatally in the future, MIT will often kick them out. Their general attitude seems to be that if somebody kills themselves while no longer a student, it's not their problem anymore. Whereas if they do, it's bad publicity and loss of money.
Now, plenty of people will think about suicide for different reasons, and it doesn't mean that they're ever planning to act on it. So it's really important for therapists to be able to make the distinction between somebody finds some relief in sort of fantasizing about being dead versus somebody who might actually act on it.
The severe problem with this, other than the fact that they're kicking people out who seriously need help, is the fact that many people who do seriously need help are not going to mental health because they're seriously afraid of this.
I think the culture is changing and people are more willing to talk about like oh, if you're feeling stressed, that's okay. Here, I'll help you. We can go like relax by watching a movie.
People here are very accepting of others and very helpful, especially in certain places. You know, the people that you live with in your dorm or in your living group kind of constitute a family.
We're just trying to make people okay with the idea of seeking help and being more aware of when you do need to seek help.
Another big misconception is that treatment is not effective. You know, that there's no point in going for treatment because it won't help. And certainly it's true that some treatment is not effective, and not every therapist you go see is going to be good or the right fit for you. But depression is highly treatable, and people who go for treatment, most of them get better. If you go to therapy or if you do therapy and medication, both, you're going to feel better. That's probably what's going to happen.
I probably didn't used to think that about like mental health in general or mental illnesses until like I personally went through some like things and needed to get help, and then now I see it in a very different way.
The most important thing for anybody who is suffering is to not be alone, right? So being alone in the face of feeling terrible is the thing that makes it become really bad.